And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Welcome to Benchley Night. Now, once again, Faceplant and StreamYard are not getting along with one another. And apparently, I won't be able to see any comments that people on my personal Faceplant page leave. I can see comments on my Faceplant art page and on the YouTube channel, but unfortunately not comments left on my personal Facebook page. Sorry. Anyway, it's a joy to be here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a joy to be here. Now, as you know, we no longer read the list of supporters with the unidentified unlit in the can at the beginning of the shows. We read it at the end. So if you want to hear your name, if you are a supporter and want to hear your name, wait till the end. All right. So tonight we have two. Hey, Betty Sue. Hi, Basu. Betty Sue is here, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe other people are here. Well, it says 9 people are here. That's good. That's good. So with the holidays coming, it is necessary to keep ourselves in a good state of self-care. I'm sorry, I'm looking down because there are cats eddying around my feet. It's important to keep a good self-care regimen in place. So I thought tonight we'd have two readings from Mr. Benchley, in which he advocates for various ways of staying healthy. The first is, I have just been looking at a table showing the energy in calories expended per hour by a man weighing 154 pounds under different conditions of muscular activity. And I am shocked to find that I must come under the designation of calorie hoarder. I guess I still must have that very first calorie I ever earned. According to this table, 65 calories per hour are expended by just sleeping, and 77 by just being awake. Sitting at rest uses up 100 calories per hour, making my grand total 177 calories when I am sitting at rest awake, and 165 when I am sitting at rest asleep. I can't find any other form of muscular activity in the list that I can really go in for, certainly not by the hour. For example, there is reading aloud, 105 calories, hand sewing, 111 calories, standing at attention, 115 calories, and knitting, 23 stitches per minute on sweater, which uses 116. But I don't read aloud, nor have anyone read aloud to me. And if I can help it, sew by hand, stand at attention, or knit 23 stitches a minute on a sweater. I don't even knit 3 stitches a minute on a sweater, even on a good day. On some days when I'm in rare form and feel like stepping out, I might expend the 118 calories that are given for dressing and undressing. But my work is such that I really don't have to get on more than a pair of slippers and a sweater to be in uniform, as it were. And it certainly doesn't take me an hour. It certainly doesn't take me an hour to do that. So I could not take credit for the full 118. On those nights, however, when I have to put studs into a dress shirt and button the collar, I guess that I use up enough calories to make up my quota. In fact, I note that, quote, sawing wood uses up 480 calories. And if sawing wood isn't easier than buttoning a 15.5 collar around a 16 neck, then I'll compromise on 400 calories. It says that singing exhausts 122 calories, but it does not mention humming, and that's really about as far as I ever get. Typewriting rapidly rates 140 calories, but I do not typewrite rapidly. In fact, there are hours when I sit at a typewriter without hitting a key. I didn't even look to see what ironing with a 5-pound iron expends, for I was not interested. Sweeping bare floor 38 strokes per minute was also one of the items I did not follow along with my finger to the calorie column. In fact, bookbinding, shoemaking, carpentry and metalworking, or active exercise, the latter closing at 240, seems to me just silly to have in a column like that. What are we, living in the Middle Ages? I was disturbed to find that, quote, walking moderately fast was put down at 3.75 miles per hour, 300 calories. I would consider walking 3.75 miles per hour as running, and at a good fast clip at that. Walking very fast, 5.3 miles per hour, uses up the largest number of calories in the list, 650. Even more than running at 5.3 miles per hour. I'm going to reread that. Walking very fast, 5.3 miles per hour, uses up the largest number of calories in the list, 650. Even more than running at 5.3 miles per hour, 570. But we don't even have to discuss that, although I don't see how it can be. I suppose it is because anyone foolish enough to try to run at that rate would not be able to finish out the hour. All in all, I do not suppose that. In the 24 hours, including the 143 consumed in being asleep and being awake, I use up more than 500 calories in total, which is the exact amount expended in 1 hour of swimming, according to the table. But I don't have all that bother of changing into swimming suit and back to street clothes again, and I don't get all wet and blue around the lips. I think I will just spend my 500 calories a day and see what happens. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the second reading of the night. Let's see the comments. There's Martha Rowley. I think I found you in a way I can acknowledge. Yes, you did, Martha Rowley. And Betty Sue says, all except the active exercise sound like fun. Yeah, those are very Betty Sue activities, I must say. It was like bookbinding, shoemaking, carpentry, and metalworking. Yeah, sounds good. Sweeping bare floor at 38 strokes a minute doesn't sound like a real enjoyable thing, though. The second reading tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the second reading. How, even better advice from Mr. Benchley. How to avoid colds. The prevalence of the common cold at this time of year makes it advisable for everyone who possibly can to formulate a set of 10 rules for their avoidance. At the end of the open season, the best set of 10 rules will be embroidered on a handkerchief and presented to their author to use for his own cold. Here, as nearly as I can remember them, are my 10 rules for avoiding the common head cold. 1, don't breathe through your mouth or through your nose. These two orifices have been called the twin roads to Germville, and on a busy day, present a picture to the microscope similar to that of the Boston Turnpike. So long as people use their mouths and their noses to breathe through, we are going to have epidemics, plagues, and eventual disintegration of the human race. Your surgeon will be glad to fit you up with a small tube which can be inserted into the throat and worked with a nickel hand pump. This will supply you with all the air that you will need for an ordinary day's breathing. Most of us get too much air anyway. Ordinary breathing air has been called nature. Ordinary breathing air has been called nature's exhaust, and the less we load ourselves up with nature's exhaust, the better. 2, avoid crowds. This applies to all times of the year. You never know who may be in a crowd, and mingling with one may result in your being reminded of an old $50 loan or a promise to drop in and hear someone sing. Even if no one in the crowd has a cold, there's always someone who wants to push or to romp, and you're pretty sure to have your hat knocked off. A good way to avoid crowds is to stay right in your room all day with the door locked. 3, get plenty of sleep. When people come out to awaken you in the morning, just pull the covers up over your head and say, "Go away. I am avoiding a cold." When you have guests who hang around after midnight, excuse yourself politely by saying, "Now I will go in and get my preventative sleep. This is the season for colds, you know." If during the afternoon you feel drowsy at work, just put your head over on your desk and take a little nap. Your boss will understand if you put a little sign up by your elbow reading, "Man asleep here, cold prevention." 4, change heads frequently during the day. Have an extra supply of heads in your room or in a large bag if you travel about. And when you feel one stuffing up, take it off, put on a fresh one. 5, stay in a temperature between 60 and 70 degrees. This can easily be done by jumping on board a train for Palm Beach and lying on the sand for a month or so. Be sure, however, to lie face up with the arms outstretched so that the sun can send its actinic rays across your chest and into your eyes. This is the hardest part of the rule to follow. The temperature of the gambling rooms, however, will be just about right, and so you won't have to lie on your back there. 6, do not dose up with patent medicines and nostrums. A sitz bath of rock and rye twice a day, using ordinary care not to bruise yourself on the rock candy, ought to be all the medicinal treatment that you might need. 7, eat a balanced diet. No proteins, no starches, no carbohydrates. Just a good steak with lionized potatoes and asparagus now and then during the day. Remember the old adage, stuff a cold and stuff a fever. 8, no exercise. This is all important. Exercise just stirs up the poisons in your system and makes you a hotbed of disease. Sit, or preferably lie, as still as possible and smoke. Sit or preferably lie as still as possible and smoke constantly. If you can stand it, have somebody read aloud to you. If you cannot stand it, scream, "Stop that reading out loud." 9, if you think you have caught a cold, call in a good doctor, and then call in 3 good doctors and play bridge. 10, And above all, do not catch cold. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Benchley night for December 15th. And we have a few people to thank. As you may know, ladies and gentlemen, we've now moved our email list over to Substack, and people can choose to subscribe to my email list, which just means contributing money to the Liberal Snowplowing Do-Gooder Fund. And I am pleased to say we got another donor today, and that is very much appreciated. And I also want to say, since Betty Sue is watching, yesterday Betty Sue and I were talking. There was a parade in Bellows Falls yesterday, and I made the rather smart aleck remark that it meant that the orphans of the orphanage, the town that's in the town down the road, were getting lined up against their will to march yet again. It seems like every parade, those poor kids get trotted out to march. And Betty Sue said, all they want is a forever home. And, we say that all the time about our cats and things. And, Charbonneau, our dear cat Charbonneau, he lived in a box for 8 months before we adopted him. And his overriding sense I get from him is, Dad, I don't live in a box anymore. And so when Betty Sue said they just want a forever home, that just broke my heart. So do know that the Liberal Snowplowing Do-Gooder beneficiary this week is going to be Kern Hatton Homes in Westminster, Vermont, with a nice donation. Thanks to all the Liberal Snowplowing Do-Gooders. Thank you all so much. And we have to thank, ladies and gentlemen, Carol Burning, Kate Fry, Rhea Bruns, who I see is here with us tonight, Lizzie Grosso, Ann Cousins, Nancy Bass, Susan McCullough, Nancy Flanagan, Christina Stockman, Busy Graham, Catherine Fisher, one of the great artists of our time, ladies and gentlemen, Catherine Fisher. Our latest Liberal Snowplowing Do-Gooder, Ms. Bree Dodson, Nancy Radzik, Deborah Lovett, Susan McNeil, Marlon Gibson, Terry Widener down there in Texas, a great illustrator, ladies and gentlemen, Terry Widener, MJ Brush, Jean Fry, Helen Siksek, Sonia Jackson, Martha Rowley in Saxons River, who managed to find us tonight. Hi there, Martha. Mr. James Gilbraith in Plano, Texas. Jeb Hart. Jeb Hart, a great human being. Someday I'll tell you all the story of Jeb Hart. Cindy Baker. In Omaha, Nebraska, Mr. John T. Wilhelm. And out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the one man who can answer the question about what is going on with all those drones. Because he is tall enough, ladies and gentlemen, he can just reach up. He can just reach up and bat them out of the sky, much like Superman he is. Much like Superman. Find out what is going on with those drones, my very, 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 very tall cousin, Mr. Nat Hunter, his wonderful wife, Elise, and their wee little dog, Ginger. Thank you all so much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week for, it'll be Benchley night next week, though. Prepare yourselves. If you have nothing to do on Christmas Eve and Christmas night, join us for the annual reading of The Birds' Christmas Carol, Christmas Eve, and Christmas night. Tears will be flowing. See you next week. See you next Sunday. Bye-bye.